The Guardians trade deadline reinforcements have played a big role in their turnaround. We'll talk about who the September reinforcements are going to be as the roster expansion is just around the corner and they're facing the Royals this week. Battle of two hot teams. We'll talk about how to cool them off.
Tanner Bibee of the Guardians, and you're listening to Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I can't decide if an off day was a good or a bad thing for the Guardians. Probably good, just from obviously being on the West Coast and playing 6 games and having to come back the last 2 nights. But when you're hot, man, you don't want days off. And the Royals, who are hot, they just clubbed the heck out of the Blue Jays on Thursday. They're going to be headed to Cleveland. We'll have a fun matchup this weekend to see if the Guardians can cool them off and they can stay hot. And the Royals are still in last place, but they are playing some dangerous baseball. We'll talk about them later in today's Lockdown Guardians. We'll talk about some surging minor leaguers, some possible Arizona Fall League candidates, as we've seen some stuff released for that already. We start off today's show, though, talking about September reinforcements and who on the roster will join Cleveland as the roster expands to 28 in under a week at this point. That over there is Jeff Ellis, your host of Lockdown Guardians for the last 8 years. I'm Justin Lada. I've been here with Jeff before. We've both been covering the Guardians minor league system for 19 years, including the draft. And this is Lockdown Guardians, your only daily Cleveland Guardians podcast. It covers your team from the majors, the minors, the draft, and everything in between. And we're going to get into the majors and the minors of it all in this one. So I know there's been a lot of debate, obviously, surrounding September call-ups, prospects. Everybody wants to talk about Ralphy Velazquez. I know people are going to be like, you're throwing cold water again. We still have a hard time believing how it's going to work with him. I'm not saying I wouldn't like to see it. I wish there were just a better path for it. But before we get into that, let's talk about the possible September call-ups for Cleveland, because they do have an open roster spot. So there is a way they could add somebody not on the 40. Who do you think, Jeff, are the most likely candidates to reappear in Cleveland? Or maybe they'll make their 2026 debut. I guess I shouldn't assume it'll be reappear, but I have a feeling we're going to see some reappearances.
What do you think it's going to be reappearances? I think there's a decent chance for Manzardo, just because of like past experience and some of the defensive value he brings. Daniel Schneemann, again, because of flexibility and what he can bring to the roster. I also think we might see the return of Rhys Hoskins, just because he is.
I didn't even think about that.
I mean, he is immortal. He has inside him blood of kings. You can't kill him, unless you go for his head. I know many of you get the reference. Have fun with that one. But like those are the names that I kind of see hitting wise. I mean, I know someone asked us about Watson. It's like, yeah, I would love. I mean, at this point, I'm like, it would make sense, but I don't think that he's the guy they're going to go to. Ciccone looks weird to me in there. Is something spelled wrong?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Sorry, I got distracted.
I blame AI.
Yeah, AI always wants to spell his name like that, but it threw me off. Perkins could make some sense. He's a switch hitter, but has been better against lefties. And, pitching wise, I brought up Lively with you off air. I think there's a chance that he gets some opportunities, especially if they want to go into a 6-man rotation. He could be thrown out there, as could Ciccone. Espino and Alman, already being on the roster. And then I haven't even looked to see what Ryan Borchard has done, but if they wanted to add a third lefty, I mean, he's about the only lefty down there I can think of, because Baroki, that's because Steven Perez just has not had a strong year. But I don't think it'd be him. I think like those arms. I mean, to me, it's like Ciccone, Lively, and Espino feel the most likely. I
you only get 2.
No, I know, but I'm saying those are the guys I bet because you only get one hitter, one batter is essentially what it becomes in the end.
Yeah, you can't have more than 14 pitchers.
14.
So you could have 15 hitters and 13 pitchers, but nobody would do that.
No,
everybody calls up one hitter and one pitcher. For what it's worth, Ryan Barucki, by the way, 6 innings pitched, 0 ERA and 2.18 FIP. I don't think it's happening, but
I also wouldn't be shocked by it. Let me put it that way. I don't think it's likely. So I didn't push for it off air, but I think it has a chance. I don't think it'll be Allman because of all the stuff we talked about in the show. I think they would likely.
I think
I think it's going to be
if they.
I just think, if Sacconi's ready to go, it's either him as a starter or reliever is very likely, or I could see them going with Lively or even like Espino, especially if you feel like he's been pitching better of late. And then I do have a sinking suspicion it'll be Hoskins. That's not what I want to see. I don't think it's what anyone wants to see outside of Reese's immediate family and extended family, but it does feel likely that if I were to be a manual Class A, a betting man, I would go with Hoskins and Sacconi as my choices.
You want to bet on chicken fights? That's what you want to do?
And,
what Manuel Class A says he does.
I'm no, I'm a Manuel Class A who bets on baseball games. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you throw 98-mile-an-hour pitches in the dirt. Okay. Well, let's look at this logically too, because I think that's how Cleveland. I think it's roster construction plays a lot into this. So you look at right now you have Chase DeLauder who's dealing with some hamstring stuff. They do have coverage with David Fry there right now, but if you call up an out like a Schneemann or a Watson, you give yourself more coverage that way. If you have an issue, pinch running always helps. Like Schneemann's a decent runner. Watson's a great runner.
Very good runner for Schneemann. Schneemann, I think, had a higher sprint speed than Watson did when they were out.
Yeah. Did he? Okay, I haven't checked on that. And then
Schneemann gets underrated for his speed. I just want to constantly say that.
Perkins runs well too. I don't think they'll call him up. I think if you're looking at how those guys there, I think they'll have loyalty to someone like Schneemann instead of Perkins, especially because Schneemann can play infield and outfield. So I think that just makes sense to call him up anyway. And just trying to look at who's already out on the roster here.
Okay, I was wrong about that. 27-6 versus 28-3 for Watson. So I'll correct myself. But
yeah, the thing with Watson is when they called him up, they had a need.
Yeah.
And remember now AAA plays basically till the end of the season.
Yeah.
Because they need guys to keep playing for call-ups later in the year, because it used to be all minor leagues basically ended around Labor Day, which is 2 weeks away. Now AAA is playing basically throughout the month of September, so that way major league teams have fresh arms and bodies to call up if they have injury issues. So I think that's why Watson's unlikely, because I think they'd rather him just play in AAA at this point than bring him up to sit on the bench. So there is that. I wonder, do they swap David Fry out with somebody and then bring back, do you bring back Hoskins and then you say, okay, we're setting Fry back down and then we're bringing up Schneemann, because then you kind of get the first base covered, and then Schneemann covers more infield options and outfield options plus pinch running. So there is that. I think it's more than likely Schneemann coming back. They do like him, and I think he brings what you want out of a guy who's going to come and play on the bench. You send Fry back down, you don't have your third catcher, so I guess there is that to consider. So maybe it's Schneemann and you leave Hoskins on the IL and Fry stays up. I don't know, but I can't remember the last time David Fry caught in the majors. It's been so long. The pitching one to me, I think, is more interesting because you could send Logan Allen back down, because you need somebody in AAA, right, who's stretched out. Right now, Logan Allen's not stretched out to go very long. He went 3 innings the other night. That's great. Sacconi, they're working on him in AAA as a multi-inning reliever. So he's not going to be stretched out to the length of a starter. So, he's not going to be an option. So you're right. Is Ben Lively a guy who enters you go to a 6-man rotation, then I suppose you don't necessarily need a 6th starter at the minor leagues if you do it that way. I think Sacconi's coming back either way. So
yeah,
if Sacconi comes back up, do you send Allen down, or do you just have Allen and Sacconi and then you have Schneemann, and that just kind of takes care of the 28? That seems like the lowest barrier to me is Schneemann and Sacconi, because Schneemann fills a very specific role that covers a lot, and then Sacconi just is coming off of rehab, and he was going to be in the bullpen anyway. I would like to see Daniel Espino come back personally in the bullpen to give you another high leverage weapon, but he's had some ups and downs recently. He was definitely really good tonight. Last week, Cleveland tried to pitch him 2 times in 3 days, and he really struggled that second time out. So that's still an issue for him. So I mean, you don't need to do that in September. But I don't know, come October, if he's an option. So I really wonder if they'd rather have
a stat
October
your
options.
Way.
Always. I love doing this every night now.
Yeah. So Do you know what player in AAA with a minimum 100 plate appearances has the highest WRC plus in AAA this year? Which one has been the most above league average player of any hitter in for AAA Columbus this year?
Stuart Fairchild.
No, he's fourth at a 140, behind
Cooper
Bazana. Engel second. Bazana was.
We didn't even consider Cooper Engel on this. Jeez, we blew right by Cooper Engel. That's an interesting.
So is everyone else. Like, there's a reason why he.
I know, but now I'm just thinking he obviously not a great outfielder, but like third catcher. I don't know. That's interesting. Now I wonder if Engel makes sense, but Schneemann makes more sense. Who am I missing? Who's number one?
It's Daniel Schneemann. Daniel Schneemann has a 164 WRC plus.
He's already got 100 plate appearances.
He's 101 plate appearances, not counting tonight. He is walking.
How did he get?
He's been down for so long. I mean, he went down before the trade deadline.
Oh, that's right. Wow, that's
so. Yeah, I mean, he has been.
Remember, AAA stats don't mean anything. Remember that.
But they don't. But like talking about like over 30 points higher than Ralphie in AAA this year in terms of his production. Yeah, I mean, I'm now kind of curious to see if I just make it all teams, see where he would rank at his 164, by the way, is the sixth best in AAA baseball this year. Minimum 100 plate appearances. Top 5 guys: Mickey Gaspar, Tyler McDonough, Sean Keys, who, I mean, if you know me, you know, Jacob Gonzalez, and JJ Bleday. But yeah, so Daniel Schneemann has been in 7th. Christopher Morel has been cut by a bunch of teams. Cooper Engel is 9th on the list, and 10th, Davis Schneider, another guy who's not been very good at the big league level. AAA stats, they're ridiculous.
They are garbage. There's a lot of someone hit their 41st home run of the year in AA tonight. Nolan Schubart's at 30. Like it's just not that Schubart doesn't have 30 home run power, but it's just insane. All right, we're gonna keep talking about September call-ups. We'll talk about this Royals series. We are going to talk about the 40-man roster situation as well. How that plays into all this coming up. Support for today's episode of Locked On Guardians comes from Indeed Sponsored Jobs and Workplace Assets. Need the right hire. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you connect with employers with candidates who match specific skills, certifications, locations. So less time is spent on searching, more time is finding the right fit. People are finding quality hires on Indeed all the time. And in a minute, we've been talking here. Companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. We know the Guardians do significant work when it comes to background. They did it on the trade deadline, kind of checking to see who's played with who before, who has good chemistry. Obviously, Joe Adell and Foster Griffin and Nate and Nathaniel Lowe were great fits, but they wanted to check to make sure they were the right fit. And that's how they do that, checking around here. You want to spend less time searching, more time interviewing the candidates who check all your boxes, less time, less stress. More results. You need the right person to cut through the chaos. It's a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of Locked On Guardians get a $75 sponsored job credit to help your job get the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Go to Indeed.com/podcast right now. Support the show, saying you heard about it on this podcast of Indeed. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire. This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Always a shout out to everybody who makes Locked On Guardians your first listen today and every day, wherever you get podcasts. We are free everywhere, but if you want additional conversation beyond the show, you can do that by joining the Everydayer Club. It gets you ad-free versions of the show on audio, wherever you get your podcast, and access to a private listener Discord where there's other Guardians fans chatting on the Locked On Guardians channel, as well as Jeff, myself, and there's a Discord channel for almost every show we have on the network, and there's a small tier above that for just $1 extra a month. You get one-on-one texting as well. So we text you like any news, insights. We take mailbag questions there for the show, all that kind of stuff. So if you're interested in that, go to lockedonguardians.supercast.com or check the link in your show notes to learn more. So where have you landed? Because I think I'm pretty firmly like there's going to be, we'll be back on Monday to talk, obviously. So there's one day before that, but I think like as of right now, I'm pretty firmly Schneemann and Ciccone. But if I really, who I'd really like to see, I'll be honest, I would like to see Ralphie. I don't know if it doesn't make sense. We'll talk about it in a second. I would like to see Ralphie and Espino. That's the exciting one to see. But I think what's most likely is Schneemann and Ciccone.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know how exciting. Like in the old days, it would have made sense to promote Ralphie. I don't think that's in the current. Like when you could promote 35 guys on your roster, and if there
I
was a
know.
lockout on the horizon, that makes sense. I think in the 28 man, it doesn't make sense to bring up Ralphie because you want him to play regularly and get at bats. And I don't think, we've talked about how he can't hit off speed. He's struggling with breaking pitches. He also has one of the highest swinging strike percentages in the minors. Like he misses a lot, and that's because he misses so much breaking pitches and swinging. His swinging strike rate is higher than Jace's, to give an idea of that. So, he's got things to work on.
Last 30 days, but yeah.
I mean, last 30 days. But I mean, it's still relatively high, and I think it's higher than Jace's when I looked at just the data for the entire year as well in the minors. I got to double check that. But he's got some things he's got to work on. I'd rather see him playing every day. I think Schneemann, I think what I think is likely is Schneemann and Hoskins with Fry going down, and then Ciccone. And I mean, I don't know who I think the guy I would like to see isn't, and again, if you had the ability to have Ralphie up and you could call up multiple guys, I would agree with you right there. You should be up even with those issues because if someone makes a mistake of throwing him a fastball, he's going to hurt him. But I think the guy I would be most excited to kind of see would be Watson because of the speed he brings, which is higher than Schneemann's, and the defense. And, it's very, very, very limited sample size, almost to the level of you can't take anything from it. And I'd have to look in the minors to see if it matches up. But when he was up, I mean, he had big hits with runners in scoring position. He had big hits against the White Sox. He had some, big moments, which is why everyone, I think, thinks that he performed better than he did when he was up, is because of the big moments. But I think I would say of the young players, Watson would be the one I would like to see. But I think Schneemann and Hoskins with Fry going down is the likely one.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll talk Monday more about that when we get one day out of the September call-ups. I do wish we had the old rules where maybe, because in the old rules, you could have called up to 40. You could, I mean, I don't think any locker room has space for all that, but like I remember back in the day, Cleveland called up it was like Greg Allen and Francisco Mejia, and there was a bunch of other guys. It was crazy. I think they should do it where you have 30 active. Like
Naylor came up and didn't play.
Well, that was the 28-man rule at that point.
Was it?
Okay. Yeah, because that was
you're right.
New
CBA.
Right. What I would like to see is like an NHL style roster where you get 30 guys in your active roster, and each night 26 are designated as active. Like that way, like you go into a night, this guy can't even play. Yeah. I think 30 is a reasonable ceiling, and that way you have.
I just think 30 is reasonable in any form. Like it's not that big. Yeah. It's a long season. Let a team get a little bit of rest.
It is.
I got one more random stat to throw out that I have to bring up. This is just humorous. I was looking at the minor leagues with this, and in AAA this year, there are 6 players who have who started the year at age 34 or older, and of those 6 players, 4 of them are former Cleveland players. That's so put your guesses in the comments below. One of them should be relatively easy, but 4 out of 6 of the guys who refused to quit and were still playing and accepting outrights. Nope, he's not in that group. Oh, this is hitters, I should say. 4 of 6.
Oh,
hitters.
Just hitters. Okay,
just hitters. So, 4 out of 6 hitters started the year at age 34, or this was considered an age 34 season. And
Sandy Leone.
Actually, technically, I think it's 5 out of 6. I don't know if this player ever did, but he was a Guardian for a time. Sandy Leone is one, so it's 5 out of 6. I'd totally forgotten this guy had a short run. I don't think he played with Cleveland, but I think he was a Cleveland Guardian. So I'll tell Justin off air. Put your comments underneath.
I don't know. I'm gonna make the guesses off air. Maybe I can guess at the end. All right. The other piece of this is Timber call-ups I want to talk about too. Is Walker Jenkins is getting called up by the Minnesota Twins this week
because of Buxton.
Is he going on the IL?
Well, there's a big uncertainty with Buxton, so they decided to go get their big prospect to see if there's any way to save their season.
Because of a hip issue, which he's had before. Okay, that makes more sense because Walker Jenkins is in a similar timeline. It's the same timeline as Ralphy Velazquez, where he doesn't have to be on the 40 until next November ahead of the Rule 5 draft. So the Twins are, taking a chance that he'll be locked out of next year when the lockout happens. And he wouldn't be able to play, although I feel like he's had more time in AAA. And the reason it fits too is because he's a natural outfielder. If Ralphie was a natural outfielder, I don't even know if it would make sense because where the outfield rotation is. But anyway, the other part of this is the 40-man roster too. And the Guardians.
Jenkins has 409 plate appearances in AAA.
So he has more than Ralphie.
He's had a lot.
The
Over
other
2
piece of
years.
this, the other piece of this is the 40-man roster, not just the looming lockout, but the Guardians do have more priorities to add ahead of this offseason. So I think that also squeezes Ralphie out too, and we're going to tell you why that is in a second. Running a business should not feel like you're trying to make a bunch of systems connect that were never designed to work together. You cannot have one account for accounting. You can't have another for inventory. You can't have another for sales, and none of them are talking to each other. And that is where Odoo comes in, because it's an all-in-one business management software that brings your business together in one powerful platform. So you got sales, accounting, inventory, marketing. Everything is going to work in one singular place, one platform to manage, grow, and scale your business just like that. The best organizations know that success is not just about talent. Talent matters, but everyone needs to work towards the same goal, be on the same page. Everything needs to talk. True in sports like it is in business. That's how the Guardians are working right now. They're finally, for the most part, hitting when they pitch and pitching when they hit. They're not making mistakes. Everything is kind of gelling together, and that's what you need in business the same way you need it across sports, and it takes something to do that sometimes. And that's something here is Odoo, because great organizations win because they know operations matter. That's why you should get Odoo. Odoo is one platform to manage, grow, and scale your business. Try for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's odoo.com/lockedon. We are headed into the home stretch of the season, but that doesn't mean you have to stop paying attention. You can keep up with all things going on as the playoff race heats up. You can hit the bell on YouTube, subscribe, get notified of when episodes go live, as well as reaction videos, anything else we post, and then auto download your favorite audio platforms. And we're free everywhere you get podcasts. And downloading keeps the show in your feed and helps the show out greatly. You got any more random stats to throw out, or should we move on with the 40-man situation?
One correction. So I said that Ralphie has a higher swinging strike rate this year than it's been higher over the last month, as you're correct. But yeah, Ralphie is 1/10% lower than Jace over the course of the year. Ralphie's swinging strike rate is he's tied with Alex Mooney between Milan Tolentino and Jace Lavalette in terms of how often he swings and misses at a pitch. Is just below Jace Lavalette, just above Milan Tolentino, and right on par with Alex Mooney.
Thanks. Okay, so the 40-man roster situation heading into the offseason, that I think that's also going to factor into why Ralphie isn't going to be part of it. I'm not going to say never,
and I think also just the general uncertainty. Like, there is definitely a world where they change the rules about like service time. Like, if they can get a cap and it change, like there's a chance where like they could lose a year of service time based on how they change rules. Like, stuff like that could
they might have to negotiate service time to the players if there's time missed.
So he could, in the fact that he's on the 40-man or called up at the end of the season, could then lead to him getting a full year of service. So for 1 month, you could conceivably end up losing a year of service time.
Yeah, you could. So this offseason right now on the 40-man roster, they're currently at 39. They're set to lose off the 40-man. Reese Hoskins, fine. Foster Griffin is a free agent at the end of the year. Sean Armstrong has a mutual option, but they're going to dump that one.
But he's already off the 40-man right now, so he doesn't really count towards your 40-man count.
True, but you're not going to put him back on, so you don't have to worry about that. And then you have Austin Hedges, who will temporarily come off as a free agent. I'm sure he'll come back on. So. Yeah, I mean, you could leave him off as like a tool to like increase some flexibility early on, but he's going to come back, no doubt. So the Guardians have at least 4 guys they have to add this offseason, and that's starting with Jason Churio. I'm pretty sure they're going to have to add Justin Campbell. I mean, he's in AAA. He's had a great comeback this year. I think you add him. Franklin Gomez has to be added. He's struggled at AA so far, but you traded for him in the offseason. He's got good stuff, so I think you're adding him.
You also forgot Nathaniel Lowe for coming off.
I'm sorry. Nathaniel Lowe comes off too, so there is Nathaniel Lowe. So that gets you to 4 right there.
And even if and
then you could say Hedges for a little bit just for roster manipulation. The 2 guys on the fringe, I think you have to add Cody Huff. But here's the thing: if you add Cody Huff to the 40-man this offseason, you can essentially dump David Fry. He does what David Fry doesn't play he hasn't played the outfield, but it doesn't really matter. So you could do that. And then Jacob Sibbons, the other interesting one to me, because he's pitched really well this year, but he's all the way down in high A. So he's kind of one off for me. So the Guardians are going to get 4 off their 40 man. They're at 39 right now. So that would get them down to 35. They got to add 4 at least. So you have maybe 1 room, but maybe you add Zibin. So that gets you to 5. So I just think that they're probably going to not. Normally, they don't want to fill up the 40 man either. Usually, they like to leave 1 spot open, although I have to look and see what they've done recently. But I think that also kind of gets in the way of adding someone like Ralphie as well, because if you're deciding between how you're going to add guys, I don't think you want to complicate it with that. But I think what you said is right. I think the service time issue makes sense too, because they could easily negotiate service time and say, well, yeah, we missed 30 games, but we want credit for those 30 days. And they might say, okay, you'll get credit for some of them. Those are games that Ralphie won't play that could count towards his future free agency. So yeah, it's just very complex. So I think they just want to, I think they're more likely to want to avoid any complexities when it comes to that. And if there was a direct fit, like Walker Jenkins is going to play the outfield for the Twins. If there was like a direct fit, if there's no Nathaniel Lowe, there's no Kyle Manzardo at first base, maybe it makes sense. But
yeah, no, agreed.
Those things are there too. So I just think there's just a lot. I'm not saying they won't do it. Maybe they'll surprise us. Like the Bailey decision was a surprise. The Pisano decision, as early as it was a surprise. The aggressiveness of the trade deadline was certainly a surprise.
And now was a surprise.
Yeah, so maybe they'll surprise us, but I think there's a lot of factors that do get in the way.
Yeah. And let's also just be honest here. Like a name you had forgotten about was Cooper Ingle. And Cooper Ingle has a 154 WRC plus, a 299 banger average, a 427 on base, a 552 slug. Throughout his minor league,
went back down at all.
Yeah, I mean his throughout his minor league career, he has been, his worst extended look over 30 games, his worst over 30 game stretch at any level is like a 130. Like he has been dominant in the minors. And when he got called up, he looked lost, not just defensively, but like he really struggled in the batter's box. There's such a disconnect that, again, you have to look beneath numbers. So I know there's going to be RDC. I can already predict Smart Alex in the comments are going to be like, well, then why even bother with Ralphie because of the negatives? It's like, because there are negatives you can work on. He's still a young kid. These are things guys get better at. You can get better to a degree with pitch recognition. He doesn't chase. So that's like things you can do to help. The problem with Cooper Ingalls, it's hard to add exit velo. Like that's the thing. It's hard to add that extreme end. And you just want Ralphie to get more time so he can get those traits to better identify pitches. So hopefully he can improve. But yeah, I think, looking at this list, it's going to be interesting. And then the other guy just that they might consider adding, I don't know if they will or won't, is Ben Lively. But I think the one thing that might hurt keeping him on the roster is I think his arbitration estimate is more than what he is. But I'd have to look. If he might have signed a 2-year deal with a guarantee amount in the next year. And if he has a low guaranteed amount for next year, that he might actually be on, because then he would already have a contract, and having already signed a contract override salary arbitration. So I have to double check. I'm pretty sure he signed a 2-year deal with the second year being about league minimum. So if that's the case, I think there's also a good case to be made to throw Lively as a 6th. And then the other piece I just wanted to add, people are like, if you don't know Jacob Zibin, if you're not familiar with Jacob Zibin, you're probably being like, why would they care? He's a 10th round pick. I just want to point out Jacob Zibin was given $1.2 million as a 10th round pick, second highest bonus they've ever given out. That's essentially second round money, third round money they gave to him. That's how much they believed in him as a pitcher. So sometimes when you have a guy like that, there is more opportunities. Chase Mobley is the highest at 1.8, Zibin at 1.2, and then $500,000 to Tyler Holt, and your fourth guy is Franco Alamon at 175. So it's a pretty big shifting list there, as you can see, but they obviously really liked Zibin and paid for it. So it's going to be interesting. And Ralphie is a lot of fun. I think he's going to be a very good player as soon as Hanau graduates at some point this month from rookie lists. Ralphie is head and shoulders the number one prospect, but that doesn't mean any player is perfect. There's still things to be worked on. And I just think there's so much uncertainty that more than anything else is what's hurting, the inability to coach what they're going to do with service time. Uncertainty is definitely the issue, because if you think he's a star, then I don't think you risk 1 month when it could potentially, like if the lockout goes on for a long time, like cost you 6, cost you 7, cost you a year. Like, are you willing to give that up of a player who you're hoping is a middle of the lineup thumper?
Yeah, I will say the one thing about Ralphie too is that like development happens at the major league level, and he's not going to face even if he gets better at the minor league level, he's not going to face the same quality of breaking stuff and all that stuff anyway. So it might be better for him to face the better stuff anyway, but that's a conversation for another day. Let's quickly get into the last couple minutes here, the Royals series. So it looks like it's going to shake out this way. Guardians are going to have Michael Wacha versus Tanner Bibee on Friday, Daniel Lynch and Foster Griffin Saturday, Seth Lugo and Parker Messick on Sunday. Love having Messick going on Sunday because he's been great recently.
Tanner pitched a good game. Cameron, which is good.
Yeah, he's been really good lately. Wacha's tough. Like, he has a good changeup. That's going to be interesting to see. Maybe you put a bunch of righties in the lineup against him and you try to, I don't know what his splits are as far as, let's see how many, right? He doesn't throw changeups to righties a ton. So maybe
Wacha's struggled over the last month too. He's not now he's
exactly the Royals, guy. They're hot right now.
They are, but Wacha has not been super hot since in the second half. He's been one of their weaker second half starters this year. But
642 FIP in this stretch, by the way, in the last 2 starts. So he's struggled, but he's the kind of starter that does kill Cleveland. Seth Lugo has a 6.32 ERA in the stretch, but he does have a 193 FIP. So we'll see how that goes. And then Daniel Lynch has just moved into the rotation a couple starts ago. So I think he's going to be up to about 4 or 5 innings. The bullpen's been really good during this Royals 10-1 stretch over the last 11 games or 11 days. So
just how you win a bunch of games.
John Schreiber's been better.
But John
Pearson's been good, but he walks a ton of guys. Alex Lange, who was good and then broken again and is now good again, but he's at a 4.33 FIP. The offense to me
that's only in the last
scary.
2 weeks because I'll say, the underlying thing is a lot of these guys have been terrible in the second half. They've been good during the hot stretch of facing terrible teams. So I'm curious to see.
I'm most worried about the lineup of the Royals. Vinnie Pasquantino has been on fire since he came off the IL. He also had handmade surgery. He's a little ahead of the timeline than Jose, so maybe that's something to watch out for. Like maybe Jose.
But didn't he come back then go back on? Didn't he? He was about the same time.
I'm not sure
originally. I'm pretty sure he had another stint because it was bothering him.
Okay. Bobby Witt's been hot lately, but he's always Bobby Witt. Jack Caglione's been really, really hot lately too. He doesn't walk, but he hits the crap out of the ball. He had 2 homers tonight on Thursday, but one was off a position player. It was off Miles Straw, ironically enough. Carter Jensen's been good. He's their leadoff hitter. Salvador Perez has been decent lately, but he has been pretty cooked all year. Michael Massey's been good this week too, last 2 weeks too. So the Royals offense is coming to play. So the Guardians pitching needs to shut them down. The offense, I actually have faith in the Guardians offense right now. Not that I don't have faith in the pitching, but I think right now the Royals offense scares me. So the pitching, needs to be good. It needs to stay good. The Guardians bullpen was really good on this last 9-game stretch. They're going to need the best versions of Cade Smith, Eric Sabrowski, Tim Herron, Hunter Gaddis. They're going to need 3 really good starts. I don't know how the Royals do against lefties, but it helps that Jack, Vinnie, and Michael Massey are all lefties. So maybe that helps when you have Foster Griffin and Parker Messick going.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to look at how they are versus lefties as a team. I might pull that up here very quickly. But the thing I'll say is, like, to win 9 out of 10, obviously everyone is playing well. But before that, just in terms of second half, you've got Jack, who's been fantastic. All everything's due to him. And then Witt and Massey. And then everyone else has been kind of 20% below league average. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when 2 teams that have beat up on bad teams face each other and have to face, a pair of tough pitching staffs. So I'm very intrigued. Remember again to fill in those comments, download daily, all of the fun things that we'd like you to do. Thank you for joining us all week on Locked On Guardians. We really do appreciate the support as we approach 1,800 episodes. Thank you all, and go Guardians, go.
Random Guardians and Royals.
Give us someone obscure, really obscure. Go deep on them.